Jeopardy, Jeopardy, baby. Ooh. Hey, Super Six is in jeopardy, baby. Anyway, this is it's October 13th, and this is the my theories, thoughts going on about the. Sorry, I'm adjusting. Adjusting. About the Andre Dirrell being out of the Super Six, and when you start thinking about this, people are like, "Oh, he's Doug and Ward. You know, these guys don't want to fight because they're friends." And I don't know if you know this, but fighters, unless it's like blood, friendship can be later, man. You know, I want the title. I want that. We could be friends. I'm gonna be the champ. Is that cool? Because if you don't want to be the champ, but if you want to be the champ and I want to be the champ, somebody got to be the champ. So I'm gonna have to punch you in the face. You see what I'm saying? It happens. And granted, they might even be able to make more money by fighting outside of the Super Six than inside the Super Six. But we're talking about a problem here with Dirrell. Now we all know about him getting blasted, at the end there against Abraham, and he was getting hit with some shots toward the end, and he was getting hammered, and we felt like the end was coming, and we felt like the fight was gonna be over. We thought Abraham had the fight gone on. Had he not hit him, when he was down, he would have gotten away. He probably would have won the fight, honestly. But that didn't happen. Dirrell won. He was hit. It looked like he went into a paralytic seizure. Went into a seizure there when he had gotten hit, and we dog him about it, and that's the thing. But since the fight, this is off of ESPN and Dan Raphael and all those guys talking about it. After the fight, they had talked about Dirrell having bouts of dizziness and lingering headaches, and he was no longer the same dude that he was. And if you look at brain injuries or anything of that nature, if there is a change in your attitude or the way you act and stuff, you probably suffer some brain damage, man. I used to be a very violent, evil dude until I got in a car accident, and then I became a nice guy. I think I suffered brain damage. Just throwing that out there. I mean, it's legitimate things. He went in because of this, and it got to the point where he could no longer even lay down because his symptoms would get worse. So he had to sit up, and they got concerned about this, so they said, hey, we better take him to the doctor. So they went in, they saw the neurologist. Immediately the neurologist was extremely concerned, said you are no longer going to be able to fight until you are 3 months symptom free. And you start thinking about this, of all the injuries that he could have claimed, why would you claim a head injury? Why would you open yourself up to having to be tested every single fight? Joe Macy can't really fight anymore because he had a little bleed on the brain. Can't fight anymore. There's a lot of fighters out there, once that happens, you're done. You're absolutely done. And who are we to, dog a guy for that, taking that risk, when we can look at prime examples of like a Gerald McClellan. He was a bad dude, but he suffered, look at the effects of Muhammad Ali. Look at, the effects. And I'm not saying that boxing creates, the pugilistic dementia or any of that stuff, the Alzheimer's onset or something like that. It could speed up the process if you were already going to get it. Because, there are fighters out there like Larry Holmes whose speech seems to have gotten better over the years. Because I couldn't understand him in the 80s. But I can understand him now. Or George Foreman. A lot of these guys have had a lot of fights that are very eloquent still. But then again, you can look at fighters like Evander Holyfield. Or, even Sugar Shane Mosley. And look at stuff from 10 years ago and look at them now. And the speech patterns are different. Stuff is a little off. So it could encourage or jumpstart it. Because how do you explain an 80-year-old woman who has it? You know what I'm saying? Who never fought in her life, never got hit. If you're going to get it, you're going to get it. Boxing might speed it up a little. And I'm not a doctor, so don't take that as gospel. I'm just, throwing that out there. So, I mean, of all the things, of all the injuries, this is something that needs to be addressed and you really need to decide on overly precautious on this. So let's cut him a little bit of a break. Let's see how this plays out. Let's see how the testing goes for more information and things like that before we jump into it and want to call him a ducker and everything like that. And Dude got in the ring with Carl Froch, bro. I mean, he got in with Arthur Abraham, so he's fighting the dudes. He's getting in between the ropes. So I don't see why he would do this now. Okay? So keep an open mind about it before you bash him. But I mean, if you want to bash him, you're gonna bash him. I can't stop you. You're gonna type on there. So let me know what you think about this. Is the Super 6 done? I mean, you have Andre Ward, who's now doesn't have an opponent, and he's looking at fighting somebody outside the tournament. But if he fights that dude and loses, what's it do for the... You see what I'm saying? He doesn't have to fight. He has enough points. You have the Froch-Abraham fight. The winner of that is going to fight Ward for the title. Or for the overall, hey, I won the Super 6 guy thing. Okay? Let me know what you think. Give me your thoughts, comments, on there about this. Do you think he's faking it? Do you believe this could be a possibility? What do you think about it? Do you think they need to be as precautious as possible, or are you just wanting a blood sport? Okay? Again, comment, rate, subscribe. You can go to my channel, www.youtube.com/Bigragu. Okay? Little things out there, and I think I gotta start doing some perspective videos. Okay, well, hey, this is Bigragu. I'm out.